We're now joined by Todd Belt. He's a professor of political management at George Washington University here in Washington, D.C. We're going to talk to him about the debate. But let me start first, Todd. You're on the front lines with these young folks. Do they seem energized this year as far as an election goes? Because in the years past, they really haven't shown up at the polls.
They really do. And I think your previous correspondent had it correct that a lot of it has to do with the racial justice issues that erupted over the past summer and some other issues that they're very passionate about that they believe have been really neglected, particularly climate change, which I think we'll hear about tonight as well. Those are two really defining issues for these young people, and I think it will spur a higher level of turnout than we've seen in the past.
Todd, we've watched these debates in the past. You have a candidate here and a candidate there, and you have a moderator, but now you also have a mute button. So talk to me about that change in the dynamic.
Yeah, this is a really important change because, as we saw last time, there were 128 incidents of President Trump interrupting former Vice President Biden, and Biden only interrupted about a quarter of that, but he did do some of his interrupting. This is going to mean that every new segment, every 15 minutes, we're going to have 4 minutes of uninterrupted time for the candidates to talk, 2 minutes apiece with the mute button on, which is going to allow them to actually talk some policy, which is not what we heard during the first debate, and which a lot of people were frustrated they didn't get. Now, there's another rule that's in place, and that is that if you do interrupt subsequently, then the person you interrupted will get that time put back, so they will have to be able to recover it. So that's another rule that I think we'll be really interested in, and I'll be watching out for to see how the candidates make use of it.
Let me ask you about the importance of debates. Can they, at this stage, so close to the election, when you've already got over 40 million people who've turned out to vote in person, can they make that much of a difference?
Well, one of the things we know about debates is they generally tend to strengthen the trends that are already happening, unless there's something that really goes wrong, like somebody does something, commits a terrible gaffe. So, I mean, we've seen the trends already that Biden is pulling away from President Trump in the swing states and elsewhere, and that has continued ever since the conventions and on through the first debate. A lot of that has to do with the issue of COVID and who people trust more to handle that. I think for Biden tonight, he has to avoid that big gaffe that might be replayed on the news over and over again because he is in the driver's seat. So I think the main issue is do no harm. But this is the president's last chance to really talk to all the voters instead of just his crowds at his rallies. I think he needs to make the best use of that.
Crowds at his rallies. Let me ask you about his election strategy, because it seems to be the playbook that he used in 2016. Is that going to be effective this time around?
No, I don't think it will, for a number of reasons. He did activate a lot of new voters, and he's trying to do that again, get some new registrations, but his base is still only about 40 to 42%, and that's not going to be enough to carry him over the finish line in a high turnout election like we were expected, especially in those swing states that are, really getting a lot of the attention of the candidates. And we should note, just with these last couple of weeks, Joe Biden has 3 times as much cash on hand. So Donald Trump is going to be just swamped in terms of the number of ads and electronic media that the Biden campaign will be able to do.
Todd Belt, thanks so much for your analysis. Really appreciate it.